All right. Welcome back to Is Anything Real in Paid Advertising, the show where agency founders unpack what's real and what's just noise. I'm your host, Adam W. Barney, and today we've got someone who knows how to use AI to spark real human conversations. Nathalie, welcome. Before we dive into the world of podcast engagement, quick pulse check. Is AI actually creating more connection or is it just more noise?
Great question. Thank you so much for having me, Adam. I would say both, right? It really depends how you use it. It is certainly creating noise and keeping a lot of people busy. Now, is that very, efficient and getting anywhere? Maybe, maybe not. But for sure, AI is also an accelerator of results. It's a way to automate, but in a way that is not robotic, I would say, because it can be highly customized. So that's the power of AI, is really taking automation to a next level and making automations that we were doing before more human.
I love it. And especially when we think about from a paid advertising perspective, there's an impact there to think about as well. So I know from your background, and of course, I would love our audience, to dive into your background ahead of, creating podcast LeadFlow. But you've been building membership sites for top entrepreneurs for over 20 years. This new podcast LeadFlow tool is next level. How would you explain the origin story?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So the background is in software engineering, right? I run this business with my husband and business partner. We've been in business for 20 years, like you said, and we've been building membership sites. We are behind big platforms like Motorback, Taki More, like these big online programs. And one of the things that we noticed, so my husband with the tech and the AI, behind the business, really identified an opportunity to use AI to bridge a gap between podcasts, listeners, and clients. So what I did about over a year ago now, I talked to 100 podcasters because we wanted to look at the market and what the needs were.
Right.
And what I found is that most podcasters have no idea what that podcast bring to their business. That means they are basically hobbyists, right? Because they do it because they love it. Somehow, it's working, like they get great guests sometimes, and then they have clients, but there is nothing strategic about how do I promote my podcast? What do I say on my podcast? What guests do I bring in my podcast that can lead to more clients?
Right.
So it's a lost opportunity, basically, right? So as he was looking into AI, I was like, well, there is an opportunity, because what does AI need? And we're going to talk about this, and we're going to come back to this, I'm sure, several times.
Yep.
AI is only as good as the knowledge and the context that you give it.
Right.
So in the concept of podcast, what can we do? Well, the knowledge is in a podcast episode.
Right.
And the context could be asking people, where are they at? And when you combine the two with a strong AI prompt, then you can get a unique output for every single listener who is actually interested from getting from a passive listener into somebody who's taking action for the next step.
I love that, because my background, of course, comes from 20 years of digital marketing, performance marketing, where everything's trackable. And even over that history, you've seen how one of my last jobs, we bought a billboard that was across the street from the headquarters. And you could even track the eyeball engagement with that billboard, or you can use tools in elevators. Captivate here, at least in the US, is one of the biggest. It's a captured market. You can really target it. Podcast is the next framework. It's not just about getting the advertisers on the podcast, right? That's one thing I think people have focused on in the space for a long, long time, is how do you get the right advertisers? But there's a deeper level of data that's available. I also think that one of the limitations as we use tools like ChatGPT and Claude is the fact that although you can speak into them, they don't actually hear the tone of your voice. There's no understanding of the tone of voice. It's simply a transcription. So when you landed on the human AI human framework, why is that the secret to real results instead of just the generic sort of automation of getting podcasts out in the world? Or how does that operate?
So basically the whole idea around, again, using AI is as an accelerator, as an amplifier, right? It has this way of being able to quickly analyze knowledge and come up with an output, right? So, but the output is only going to be as good as what you feed it, like I said, right? So that's why going to ChatGPT, like you said, it's lacking context.
Right.
It's lacking context. And if you ask it to go, if you click on the little search, like network search, then it's going to pull data from different places, which might have different opinions, right? So if you want to have a good experience with AI, you have to be able to control where it looks at the knowledge, right?
How would you, I mean, so I guess that's a good opportunity to get into the tool itself in a little bit more detail. No trade secrets to share, of course, here.
No.
But I understand, how podcast LeadFlow pulls content from episodes and turns it into conversation starters. What's sort of the next level of how that works?
So basically, the way it works is actually incredibly easy, right?
I think we all like things that are incredibly easy as well, right?
So let me break it down to you. If you pick an episode that has high value and that is actionable, what Podcast LeadFlow is going to do, it's the equivalent of having someone next to you that has listened to your podcast and wants to find out, how do I implement this? How do I go next, right? So you would ask them a couple of questions, right? They are next to you. You ask them a couple of questions to get context.
Okay.
And based on what they tell you, you give them a piece of coaching, a piece of feedback, the next thing to focus on. This is exactly what Podcast LeadFlow does with AI. Ooh. So the way that it works is, for a specific episode that has some key knowledge, right? Either a framework or something that's actionable that they can do, right? Podcast LeadFlow automatically is going to pull 1, 2, 3 questions that it could ask the listener to help the listener implement or get their next step on how to implement or work on this.
It's incredible.
And Podcast LeadFlow is also automatically creating the form and automatically coming up with the prompt, which means that in a couple of minutes for one episode, you've got a couple of clicks, you've got a form that you can test. So everything by default is generated by AI. The questions that it pulls, the output. Now you can go back, because we are human, right? Human, AI, human. So human comes back into play. You look at the questions that AI came up with, and remember, they came up with the question solely from the transcript. So the more value you bring into the episode, the better, right? The questions and the prompt is going to be. From these questions, you can change them. We have clients that actually add questions. So you might think, well, less people are going to fill out the form, but the problem is not the problem. The key is here, it's not volume, it's quality. The people that have the pain and that want to get to the next step will answer the questions if they get a unique email response, right? Based on what they shared with you.
I love it. What kind of results are you seeing in bridging that podcast traffic between the meaningful connection, the context? What are your clients seeing these days? What are the biggest wins?
So the biggest wins is, so we have one client that is a leadership coach, and she was just talking to at a conference, right? Yep. And so what we do as well is, so we create a page that has the player and the form and everything, and we create a QR code so that she basically, on her presentation, she shared with a QR code the form, right? So you can do your speech, right? And then you can say, I have this really cool tool for you to take the next step. And a whole presentation was about what is your big assumption. And so she did that. So what happened is that at the conference, she had 35 people, like right from when she did it on stage, actually scan the thing, right? And get into her system and get this customized, unique, so it sounds like your big assumption could be. And then she was able to lay out a whole framework, which is called Edge, where she really, the AI, right? The prompt really took every single answer to the questions. And so when you read the email, you're like, oh my gosh, how much time did it take her to actually create something so comprehensive and that looks so much like me and what I shared? So it not only builds trust, it feels so human because it is very human at the core. It's all human at the knowledge level, and it's all human at the questions, right? And a framework and things like that. And so they're getting this personalized email, right? Through their personal email. And the coach is CC'd on the email. That means that in a couple of days, she can say, hey, what did you think? Yeah. And then she can have her whole flow. If it's like, do you want to book a call? Hit reply and ask more questions, whatever your flow is. So
whatever the call to action might be, it just woven in there.
So this is really it's a conversation magnet, if you will. It's an opportunity to really go, like we were saying, from passive to active and getting into a conversation, but via email. It's not like book a call, let's talk. It's something where the listener still has a lot of control over, that connection, right? So that's what we're seeing. It was just this weekend, right?
Wow. Yeah. It's incredible what you're pulling together through this tool that brings together knowledge, context, and the prompt to build that. More broadly, where do you see this kind of personalized engagement heading next? Because I've seen it time and time again, and especially the paid advertising space, that personalization is key. But I'm thinking in the realm of not just for podcasters, but for anyone who's running a funnel for their business.
Absolutely. So I think now I think we're still in this phase with AI where there are so many tools that come, some die, some come back, new models. So, it's a full-time job to try to keep up with all this, right? Which is something that I chose not to do because I don't think it's productive, for what I want. So I always see AI as how can I solve a problem? So I have a problem. Is there an AI tool that can help me solve it? Can you help me save time, do something more consistently, right? Here, hence the automation, without losing the personal touch. And that is something, that really ties into what our business has been, because we build membership sites for people that want to really scale without losing the personal connection. That's really our tagline. We want to stay human, but we want to scale. How do we do that? So where I see this going is that, we've been building AI, in the back end for 5-6 years, right? So it's not something that somebody that is not a developer is going to be able to pick up like that, right? However, I think that people are going to start to realize, if they haven't already, that the plain AI is really not providing great results, right? It's for these type of things. And now it's about how we're going to use AI strategically, in a bit smarter way with the models that are you seeing now the models that are more and more thinking and then analytical, and this is all coming because they are realizing that we need more, right? So this is going to evolve, but I think there's going to be more and more tools that are going to allow you to bring back the human aspect into AI. And we're happy to be among the first ones to do that, which is hard.
It is hard,
but there needs to be people and So it's that's where I see it happening.
I mean, it's like taking the initial unprompted stuff that comes out of any of these AI tools is just the vanilla ice cream, right? For lack of a better way to describe it. And then these tools allow you to layer on the hot fudge, the sprinkles, the whipped cream, and put the cherry on top so that they come back again through that human to AI to human across that bridge to the other side, and it's fully dressed up and ready to go in
Exactly.
the best mindset possible.
And it's really at the core what it is going to do is it's going to accelerate, allow us to better automate, so we're going to be able to do more, right? We can do more now of this conversation. It doesn't have to be like a you pick them up, of course, afterwards, but like all this now can be automated and still be very much with a human touch, right? Same thing with this automation. So it's going to allow people to get results faster.
I love it.
That's how I see it.
And I know that you and your husband here are at the forefront with podcast LeadFlow, but maybe for our listeners, who are some of the other names or companies out there that are doing this really well, just like you are, that are turning whether it's content into real thoughtful conversations or just evolving in the AI space, maybe not 3 steps ahead of where everyone else is, but a step and a half or 2 steps ahead of where everyone else is?
Well, to be completely honest, we've been kind of like diving into our own thing. This really launched in January only, right? So it's still very early. And honestly, I have yet to find someone who is actually starting from scratch and not integrating with existing tools. So what we see is a lot of people using Make or other tools to make other AI, and create these automated funnels, which I understand the value. Where we decided to go is to solve a specific problem. Right. So right now we are solving the problem, and we have podcast LeadFlow, but we have video LeadFlow. So we have the same concept for YouTube. Yeah. We're going to have the same concept for webinars, because webinars have a ton of value as well, right? All right. So it's about how do I repurpose, in a way, this great content that I have and get people interested to start taking action. And conversation is where it's at. It's the quickest way to build trust and to to also get people on your funnel, because then they can be added to your CRM and go into your existing funnel.
That's incredible. Nathalie, where can people learn more about podcast LeadFlow and see it in action?
Yeah, well, they can go to podcastleadflow.com, and there is a tab that's called Demo, where you can go and there is a short video on how this works. What we do as well, because it's really literally a couple of clicks, is we can do like what we do, like when I talk to someone and they are interested, we'll do a demo on their own episode. It's that simple that we can do that right now. What we're doing right now is we're getting as many eyeballs on this. So that's why I'm so excited that you asked me if I wanted to come, because this is new. So we need to show you people how it's amazing, but people also don't know what they don't know. Right. A lot of people think that podcast is just what it is, and they look at their downloads. Right. Downloads mean nothing. Right. I was just on an episode on a podcast that doesn't have a lot of download, but I really liked the guy. So I went on the episode, I got a call booked, and I got a client signed and paid. He actually paid this morning. So it's not quantity, it's quality, guys. Right. And that's a good thing. That means we don't have to wait to have a big list, big downloads. Downloads mean nothing. If they are not your right people, what are you going to do with it, right? So with this, you are actually talking to your ideal client, right? The ideal person that you want to take action. You can use this for guests as well. Actually, my friend that and coach that did that spoke on stage, right? She recorded the episode that we were going to put it on with the tool in mind. So in the episode, she even talks about the tool. She said, hey, and below this, I have a tool for you. It's generated by AI with my knowledge. So she's very open about it because that was important to her. And it's going to tell you what your big assumption is, and we can take it from there.
Wow.
So it's yeah.
I can't wait to test it out myself. My interest peaked, and I can't wait for the audience to jump on here. So exciting stuff, Nathalie. Thank you for joining us and talking about podcast LeadFlow. Again, this is another episode of Is Anything Real in Paid Advertising? Links to podcast LeadFlow will be below. Feel free to connect with Nathalie. I'm sure she'd be happy to run you through a demo. And I look forward to joining you next time. Nathalie, thank you for joining today.
Thanks so much for having me, Adam.
All right. Bye. Want to clean up your offer and install a lead gen machine that won't burn you out? Head to adamwbarney.com and check out the Agency Growth Sprint, built for $250K to $5 million a year ad agencies ready to scale with clarity, not chaos. If you're done duct taping systems and sprinting to nowhere, it's time for strategy that sticks. Visit adamwbarney.com. Clarity over chaos, always.